Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Selena from Wholeness Campaign, and today I want to answer the question of how do you avoid mold in ferments. So obviously we know that mold in food should be avoided. Many foods nowadays are actually being tested for mold and mycotoxins like coffee and peanut butter because they've been known to have large amounts of mold. So how do you really tell if your food, specifically your ferment, is moldy? Especially ferments that can develop yeasts and beneficial bacteria and the colonies of the beneficial bacteria within it. How do you tell if it's mold or if it's just natural, good, beneficial yeast? I'm going to go through all of that in this video, share with you the characteristics of mold in ferments, and how to ferment, especially if you are living in a moldy home and have experienced moldy ferments over and over and over again. So let's jump in. So the main characteristics of mold is that they are fuzzy, they are multicolored. They're going to be not just white, they're going to also have maybe some green, maybe some blue, maybe some blackish color, gray colors. People often confused mold and what's called cam yeast, I think that's how you pronounce it, cam yeast, with each other. And the cam yeast is a safe thing to have on your ferment. It can be easily scraped off, whereas mold, especially if it's on the actual vegetable itself, will need to be actually thrown away. But it can be confusing to tell the difference. So again, my tip here is if it's fuzzy and if it's multicolored, it's probably mold. Mold in ferments can be much deeper than the surface level what they appear to be. Their roots actually go much deeper within the ferment. So it can be hard to just simply scrape off the blue color on the top and expect that it's going to be completely fine. You can do that with cam yeast, but you can't do that with mold. So that's a little differentiator there. So some tips for keeping your ferments mold free. So your sauerkraut, your kefir, your beet kvass, it can be really easy for these to have mold on them. And so you're going to first want to make sure that the jars are thoroughly cleaned. Something to keep a lookout here for is if your dishwasher is moldy, often every jar that comes out of that is going to be moldy as well. So you want to make sure that you're cleaning your dishwasher regularly, making sure that you've run cycles of vinegar through it. I like to spray mine down with Force of Nature periodically, and making sure that filter and that seal is getting really cleaned on a regular basis, because that stuff just goes right onto the dishes. But what you can also do is right before you ferment anything, give it a spritz with Force of Nature. Force of Nature is a bleach alternative that is completely safe to use. It kind of smells like chlorine, but it's not. It's basically a strong form of vinegar. So you could also probably use vinegar if you just have vinegar. But I'll spritz it down with Force of Nature before I ferment anything, just to make sure that the jars are thoroughly cleaned and not prone to molding. Something else you can do is if you find that your ferments are molding repeatedly, is you could actually just add a little bit of starter culture to it. That's actually part of the recipes when you follow the GAPS diet, is you're going to ferment things with a portion of a previous ferment. So you might be using whey. I know that people use whey when they make a vegetable medley, can make it taste really good. You can use a little bit of sauerkraut brine from the last one to start the next batch. And with kombucha, that's actually part of the process. You are wanting to give a little bit of, some people use vinegar, but just a bit of the starter from the last batch will help to keep the environment acidic enough to where mold is less likely to grow. This also helps the microbiome of that ferment to be kind of kick-started as well, so that mold is less likely to grow because it's just overpowered with the beneficial microbes. If you're finding that leftovers or like ferments in the fridge are getting moldy, something you might want to consider is just cleaning out your fridge. People often miss the point of cleaning the coil of their fridge, which some professional companies could do, but I'm pretty sure if you just look up a YouTube video, you can really quickly find how to kind of do that on your own. But the coil, I found from cleaning an HVAC system, the coil of a fridge is just as important, and that can be moldy because it's susceptible to water and the condensation of the fridge. If that's moldy, then air that's breathing through the whole fridge can oftentimes have mold spores, and it can make your ferments a lot easier. I know when we had yogurt in the fridge that was consistently molding time after time after time, and it's raw yogurt, I don't expect that to happen. So I took a look at cleaning our fridge out, and it made a really big difference. Another thing just to consider is that you're making sure you have purified water. So mold can actually be in water, which is not a fun thing to think about, but the water you use to ferment things, the water you use to drink, but when you're fermenting something, it's going to multiply whatever's in there pre-existing. So you want to make sure that the water has been purified. I love my Berkey for that purpose. It's really effective at really filtering down to the very small, microbes. Berkey is actually transitioned their name over to a different company called Barreau. So I will leave a link for them in the description, because I know I'd created a whole video on Berkey and how I purify my water, and they've since changed a lot of their things. So I will leave a link for Barreau in the description box below. They are still a really trusted brand and the same people behind it. So they've got many years of experience purifying water. That's a great way to get good water. And the last thing is really just making sure that there's enough salt in the ferment. So if there's not enough salt, you're not going to have enough of the preservative that's going to keep the water consistently purified and clean. You don't see the ocean water getting moldy for a reason, because the salt is a good preservative. If your food, or specifically your ferment, is consistently getting moldy, I'm talking like they become a petri dish every single time you ferment, you may want to take a look at getting your house tested for mold, because that may be disrupting the microbiome of your fermented foods. You can do this with a simple ERMI dust sampling, which I will leave linked in the description box below. It's a great way to get an idea of what kinds of molds are present in your house and give you kind of a starting point for how to manage it, where to remediate first, because the different microbes are found in different locations or problem areas, and those will need to be addressed. I will also link my remediation video in the description box below if you're interested in checking out how much I've spent on my remediation, and I also have a video on budget conscious remediation strategies if you are not ready to pay the big ticket price for remediating your whole home right now. There's definitely things you can do to get started. If you do find that your house is moldy, which is a really common thing nowadays, some things you could try is actually just fermenting your foods outside. So instead of, doing the whole process in your kitchen, you might want to sanitize and then do all the chopping and the, smashing and fermenting. Put your recipes together outside and then bring it inside once it comes to actually fermenting the food. Another thing you can try is using fermenting lids. So that will be these little, like nipple shaped, whatever, little silicone tops that actually just help oxygen to be released without you needing to burp the ferment or unscrew the top, and potentially add in microbes from the air, spores from the air into your ferment. This keeps it really all just moving in one direction. It's going to move in the direction of carbon dioxide as it's being released in the ferment, and nothing can go back in because it's going to be sealed. I will leave a link for that in the description box below. So I hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you got any value out of this video. Let me know in the comments if you have had any trouble fermenting foods in your house, and if you have any other tips for people who are struggling with moldy fermented foods, because it can be kind of common, and I know it's a big deterrent for people who are trying to kickstart their health journey. It's my passion to walk alongside people as they heal and grow. It inspires me and hopefully brings encouragement to you. Thanks for watching.